Theater was always my safe space. We would work through our trauma and we would feel accepted together. That just wasn't something that was easy to come by where I was growing up. It was hard to feel understood by family.
You have to be aware of who you are in space and time. I put myself in theater because I wanted to be there, to surround myself with the right people who are equally as passionate and are where they want to be. Realizing it's not a solo journey, realizing that there are other people around you going through similar things.
Even though we may look different, and we come from different backgrounds, acceptance and understanding can be universal if we allow it to be.
How many Hispanic women do you see on TV every day? Most of our roles are cooking, cleaning, and taking care of people. I grew up watching that from my mom and my grandma. I never saw them be able to take care of themselves. That's something that I had to unlearn, but also take that unconditional love and acceptance and resilience with me and be able to break that cycle.
I have been told for most of my life that I am not Black enough, and that is something that really is hurtful. It is so important for people to check themselves whenever they say that. I am going to walk through life like this. Be aware of it, but do not let it hold you back.
Your most authentic, unaltered form is going to touch someone.
Every one of us, there's a world that deserves to be nurtured, and however that world is created will determine the outcome of how they live the rest of their lives. Hi guys, welcome back to another Hidden Record episode. I forgot what number this is, but we're doing something different today. We're doing a round table with these wonderful guests. Each of these guests came from a long journey to this film to make it into a reality. Are you all excited?
Very
More energy! Thank you. Okay. All right, so in this conversation, we're just going to be pretty much talking about how this film came to be and what each of their experiences was like, and how they took their life experiences from what they have learned how to live with, and then how they poured that into their characters, as well as contributing to the entire community here, where I think it should be given enough of respect and the amount of awareness as much as everything else. It's still just as important, okay? It's very important to make sure that everybody feels seen and heard. But unfortunately, we live in 2024 where there's a lot of divide. That is what we're going to be talking about today. Are you all excited?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. So what we're going to do is, by the way, this is the first round table. So please bear with us for some technical difficulties, but that's okay. You know why? Diamonds are made, they started out rough. But you know what? With pressure, yes. With pressure, we're going to come out looking like a shiny gem. Anyways, let's start with the introductions. So go ahead, pass the mic, and action. Tell us who you are.
My name is Michelle Edge. I play Dolores in Smoke Breaks. I am a local actress and all-around community service lover of all the things.
Wonderful. We have the first guest here. Next, your turn.
Hey guys, my name is Deandra. I am a freelance worker in the music and entertainment industry. My majority background is in the recording studio. I do a lot of work post in music and film. I also do some DJing, but I've been a part of the creative community here in Pensacola since 2020. It's been an honor to see it grow and expand and be a part of that. So happy to be here today. Thank you for having us.
Wow, that is wicked. That is so wicked cool. Your turn.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Jason Jamal Ligon. I'm originally from Waterloo, South Carolina, but hey, I made it out. Hi, fam. I've been in Atlanta, Georgia, though, for the last 14 years. That's where I'm based. And so I'm an actor based out of there, but then I also work in conservation biology. So that's my other half. I feel like Clark Kent and Superman. some days one half feels like Clark Kent, and some days it feels like Superman. So yeah, there's that duality going on. But yeah, I was so excited to play Roger in this film for Smoke Breaks, and yeah, be able to meet all of these wonderful people in front and behind the camera.
Thank you so much for coming out. And now we have the final guest.
Hi, thank you for that. My name is Liam Gardner. I am from Louisiana. I have lived in many cities in Louisiana at this point. I have considered it my grand tour, if you will.
Okay.
I played Leon in the production of Smoke Breaks. A little bit about me. Most of my background is actually in theater. I've expanded to film over the most recent years, but I do a lot of theater production work in addition to acting. So whenever I'm not on the stage, I'm usually doing something behind the scenes, but I'm an artist, theater maker, craftsman at heart.
You know, with theater, it's like we're able to see the world in a way where there's a bit of humor, and also it's like we don't have to treat everything so serious. If we play right with theater, like how to make everything so theatrical, it makes it easier to bear through the struggles that we have to live with. Otherwise, we're gonna be like Joker. Why so serious?
Why so serious?
Yes.
Why so serious?
So,
we need to have a little fun.
We're going to start off with the first question. Let's do a flashback. So, William, who is our esteemed director, the screenwriter, and the one that pretty much brought the Avengers here together. Each of them are like the Infinity Stones. They all come together to create this beautiful project, which is very hauntingly beautiful in a way that really does shine a lot on the issues as well as the complexities that come in the relationship between two people that are not generally considered the norm. So that is what we're going to dive into first. But first, I would love for each of you guys to tell me your perspective and your journey and before you came into this project and after the project. Let's start with you, Dolores. I know that's your character's name, but we're going to start with that. Go ahead.
Hey, I answered to Dolores. That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Yes.
Well, the fact of the matter is Dolores is just me because I am already the fairy gay mother of the community. I'm the mother hen just pulling the babies in and protecting everyone. And I taught high school for many years and sponsored the gay straight alliances at my schools when I was allowed to. However, here in Florida, we are no longer allowed to do those sorts of things or talk about any of these issues. So unfortunately, that's a detriment to our community and to our upcoming children who need to have people like me be their protectors. So even more so, unfortunately, it's a difficult job to do when you're not allowed to talk about things. So I have spent the last couple of years not working in education, thanks to our wonderful, esteemed governor and some of the laws that have been enacted. And I taught English. And when you start banning books and banning libraries and banning Shakespeare, there's really nothing for me to do. And I think it's hurtful to our children because all of that was secondary to me, to being the protector and being the rainbow warrior of the schools. And kids that didn't even know me would see me in the halls and address me by name because they knew they could come to my classroom as a safe space. So I hate not being in the classroom now because that's one less person, to be a warrior for them. But at the same time, it's hard for me to stand on my principles and, be there and fighting the good fight when I'm not even allowed to talk about anything,
Okay.
So bringing all of that to the table to Dolores, I think Dolores is just kind of the mother hen to Leon. And we don't get a lot of that in the dialogue, but I feel like that's the background, and that Dolores has been coming to Leon for many years to make her beautiful. And just to look out for him and just to be, that's their gossip girl, kind of Steel Magnolias kind of time in the salon. You do the thing and we'll talk about the things and then I'll go about my day and love you, darling. And so that's Dolores.
Okay, actually, I do have a question to endow a bridge between you and Dolores in terms of the character as well as your experiences in life. So, as we understand, teachers, we all really do appreciate every effort that you do give us to every students as well as the kids that have grown up in a situation where they do not have any parental figures. So going back to what you just said, as a teacher and also as you coming up with a theatrical background, How have you guys been able to bring in this perspective where as a teacher you're trying to educate those kids that have literally no guidance and how they should live their life, and as a kid, oh my gosh, theatrical kid, I know there's as a theater we usually have we use that as a way to cope with some things that we have a hard time understanding. So between two characters, now that you have shown and have done your best to express that, what is some of the things that you have come out in terms of educating the viewers on both sides, if that makes sense?
Sure. My background's also in theater, and I'm certified to teach English and drama, and I've been in theater since I was like 5 years old. So none of this community is new to me. So I've grown up around this whole community, right? And I'm from Arkansas, where that wasn't necessarily accepted or, a big deal. And even I did collegiate theater as well.
Okay.
And for the longest time, didn't even know that I had 2 gay best friends, because they weren't allowed to talk about it then either, because we went to a Baptist college. So there was none of that, because Jesus don't like the gay people, My Jesus does. So that's another topic entirely. But as an educator, when the last few years, we're not allowed to talk about things, it's okay. I'll just decorate my whole classroom in rainbows. And I had a poster made that says, all of y'all are welcome. That means everyone. And I put all the symbols of all the colors, all the flags and everything. So there's no wordage needed. And kids would notice that and say, hey, I really appreciate that. And that spoke volumes without ever saying a word, so there's definitely ways around it. It's just unfortunate that we can't have the conversations that we need to have sometimes. So, because I used to just pull kids aside all the time and be like, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here, whatever. And now, like, I could be prosecuted and jailed for that. And I can't in good conscience get paid for a job that I'm lying every day at, you know what I mean? So I think I'm a great teacher, but I had to step away from that, because it was too much of a battle. And so I hate it, because there's less support for our kids out there. And unfortunately, the youth suicide rate is so high. And, so many times we need to have these conversations, and that's why this is so important, because we have to have these conversations. We have to let people express themselves. We have to be able to talk about things. So this film in particular absolutely opens up a lot of doors for me to be able to talk about things that I know people definitely need to discuss. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
I would love to have your answer. Go ahead.
Yes, so I have been involved in theater since I was in middle school, and I really fell deep into it when I was in high school. And theater was always my safe space. Theater was always the place that I could go with my friends. We would make art, we would work through our trauma, and we would feel accepted together. My theater community is truly the reason why I am still here. And with that theater community, interestingly enough, as Michelle speaks about education, the theater teachers were lifesavers, not just to me, but to so many people around us. The theater teacher classroom is where you would go whenever you were down, whenever you were up, whenever you wanted to celebrate, whenever you wanted to mourn. And that just wasn't something that was easy to come by where I was growing up. It was hard to feel understood by family. It was hard to feel understood by most of my peers. But when it came time to go to theater, when it came time to go to rehearsal, when it came time to go do some improv, everything else was a little bit more quiet, and all the good stuff was amplified. And interestingly enough, I just recently started a job at a university in Louisiana. I am not specifically a teacher, but I am a theater shop coordinator and facilities manager. So I kind of oversee technical theater students whenever they work in the shop. And that has already been so incredibly fulfilling, because I've kind of graduated into the role of being the caretaker for the younger babies, which is something that meant the world to me when I was coming up. And so there's much to be said about the relationship between a caring educator and their mentees. The impact that an educator has, I could go on for days about.
No, you're good. I'm already touched about just by 2 of your experiences and the sentences and the answers you gave. Thank you so much. And then we will always go back to this. Okay, we have so much people to go over. But the one thing I would definitely say is that teachers have the godlike power. It's like they almost have this godlike power to shape one. It's not the world that we live in, but every one of us, there's a world that deserves to be nurtured, and however that world is created would determine the outcome of how they live the rest of their lives. And teachers, and great respect to taking up the responsibility to teach the younger generation. That right there, it's like by shaping the world for the future generations, by enabling this, not enabling, by building this habit of making sure that despite things are not being openly talked about, by making sure that you have the power to foster that environment where it's healthy to talk about that stuff, you guys are going to make a huge impact. And sure, we might not see that come to life in our lifetime, but it is a giant contribution to something that most people might never have realized because we were part of that. Mm-hmm. And those people, those are the ones that will live the fruits of our labor. But we might not be around for that. Anyways, you see how deep and fully definite that was? That is how it's gonna be like. Your turn.
Hey. Could you repeat the question for me?
What?
Really, like, what was the question?
Is the question just how I became involved with
Yes,
smoke breaks?
sorry. So basically, what was it like? Basically, before you got onto this project and how you came out after working on it, and also do you do some introduction, kind of like how they did?
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Action.
Yeah, for sure. So like I mentioned earlier, I've been a part of the creative community here in Pensacola since around 2020.
Okay.
I came in as a recording artist in the studio. So my background is mainly hiding in the studio booth with headphones on, expressing emotions, and kind of like painting pictures with sound. And from there, I was able to go into production and film. Most of my work has all been behind the camera. I've actually done a lot of work with Calliope Films, the production company that produced Smoke Breaks, and worked very closely with Chris and Sierra on various projects throughout the years. And the way I was introduced and, invited into Smoke Breaks was actually through Sierra Hobbs, the producer at Calliope Films. She texted me one day and she said, "Hey girl, do you act?" And I was like, I mean, not really, but I can try. And from that answer, I meant like I'm fully capable of embodying emotion and being able to portray that. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I can do it. And she was like, well, I just read a script. I read this character and I swear she's you. I really want you to audition to this part.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm down. I'll try it. Fun fact, I actually auditioned in this very room.
Same.
This is the room that I auditioned in. So came in, did my audition with Will. And I honestly, truly did not think I got the part. I was like, okay, that was fun. Like, I did it. At the very least, I auditioned. I went out of my comfort zone. I did something challenging for myself, went on my merry way in my life. And I think a month or two later, Will gave me a call and he was like, "Hey, Cece." And I was like, oh my God, like, hey, I thought y'all already filmed. And he was like, no, we're going to film in May. Like, you're welcome. So I honored and a privilege to be a part of this. When I read the script, I immediately was attached to Cece. I, just like Michelle mentioned, am very much Cece. From a very early young age, I was a safe space for a lot of queer and LGBTQ individuals, especially growing up in Florida and in middle school when you're like the world is ending every day and you're trying to find yourself. I was a safe space for many, and it continued on into my adulthood.
Okay.
And I take pride in that role. I think everybody needs a safe space, and everybody needs somebody that they can be fully themselves with and be fully vulnerable with. And I love that I attract that in people. I think it speaks volumes to how I try to live my life. And Smoke Breaks is so important because it has that theme of unconditional love in an unconventional circumstance. And I think we live that every day, and love is so rare these days, and we all need more of it. And anything that has to do with that, I am all for. And I also would love to touch on the topic that it not only represents this community, but also highlights minorities. I'm Hispanic. I'm a Hispanic woman, Puerto Rican, born and raised. And the fact that we have both of these in one film, I was like, sign me up. Like, I'm here for it. So, yeah, that's how Smoke Breaks came into my life.
Oh my gosh. But okay, I'm just gonna ask one. Okay. Okay. So you mentioned you do music, right?
Yeah.
So just like what teachers and theater does, oftentimes when we talk about hard topics, not everything has to be discussed through words. It can be the sound of music.
Yes.
So in the same manner as teachers and educators, when you do express yourself in music, there's something magical about the fact that you create these sounds that help people really get in touch with their internal child, their inner child, and then also understanding and making it easier for their internal conflict to be seen and heard through a sound of music. So, as someone who has dived into music, how have you been able to contribute to the film with that background?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing was for me is embodying emotion and embodying a theme. I do that, daily when I write. I believe every song can be a small world. And when you really dive deep and you can add all those colors with the sounds, people feel it. You know what I mean? It's frequency, and people feel that within themselves. So I knew coming into Smoke Breaks, I was more than capable of translating that into not sound, but film, visually. And it was a beautiful thing to watch instead of listen. So yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh,
seriously.
It's literally my purpose. So thank you for providing the space.
Shout out to Calliope Films.
Yeah.
And if you were looking for a studio, please book Calliope Films. They're in Pensacola. You can find them on Instagram. I think it's ccc_studios. I might be wrong. Sorry, Chris. I'm doing my best to promote your stuff. So if you're looking for a studio, book here. Anyways, back to the conversation. Make sure you grab your popcorn soda. Okay. All right. Your turn.
My turn. All right. So let's go back in time. When before Superman. This is like the origin story.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking back to high school, and I remember having like the beginning of my quarter life crisis. And I remember asking my parents like, what should I do? Like, what should I do? Like, I'm really like I'm a very anxious person.
Yes.
I've calmed down a little bit, but back then it was real bad.
Okay.
So speaking of teachers here, bear with me. So I'm the child of two teachers. So my dad, for the most of his career, 39 years teaching public high school, taught chemistry and German. And my mom, for a significant part of her career, taught biology and chemistry. And so I am the child of two parents, and they just pushed me to do what I love, all of that. You'll figure it out later. So fast forward, went to college, and I studied theater, and I studied conservation biology because I wanted to like save the world, but I love theater because it got me to explore who I am and just going through this singular journey in life. And so I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So I started out studying engineering at Clemson, and I was like, this does not fit right. So I switched over to conservation biology and theater, and my advisor even said, I've never seen this combo before. And I was like, yeah, but I just want to do it because my parents said like I should just do it, and like maybe I should just do it. And he was like, calm down, I'll sign off, figure it out later. So fast forward like 10 more years living in Atlanta, all this stuff, like I still work at a botanical garden and I still act. So I'm still doing both of those things. And so I'm so grateful that my parents as teachers were just like, shine, just do what you love doing. And I'm still doing exactly what I love doing. And so at this point in my career, I'm really thankful that I have people who will look out for me and send me scripts sometimes. And I love, the bigger film sets and all of that, but I really love the passion projects. And this is one of those passion projects. I can just feel it from day one. Whenever I first got a text from Paul Conroy, who's the founding and artistic director at Outfront Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, which is the only LGBTQ plus theater in the Southeast. And so that is the origin of my, I would say, start with Smoke Breaks, was really getting a text from him saying like, hey, you want to be a part of this? And I was like, I guess. I was like, I want to see the script. And so I read the script and I was like, ooh, I was like, this is good. I was like, ooh, there's some juice in here. I love a little juicy script. And so there was something about it. I was like, these characters are like, I felt like a fly on the wall when I was reading it. I'm like, I should not be seeing this. I should not be reading this. But it was just something about those words that Will put on that page. And I was like, there's a lot going on here. So I did the staged reading that was at Outfront Theater. I met this lovely person over here. And so we were just, kikiing off stage and on stage. And then afterwards, Will came up to me. He was like, oh, y'all's chemistry on stage was like so good. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I was like, great. Okay, thanks. And I think too, it's like, Will, we all got a standing ovation and all of that. It was just a great first read, hearing it out loud, all of that. And so fast forward, Will was like, I can't say anything, but like, I really want you to be involved with this. Like, I think we have funding to make it happen. I was like, okay. I was like, Atlanta is 5 hours away. I don't know. Like, can we do this? And, but Calliope Films, Sierra, Chris, Del Shore's Foundation, Will, they all banded together. They opened up their purses and they found that money. This local art community here in Pensacola, like they found the money to make it happen. So I'm just so thankful to be a part of it and still be able to be a part of this passion project. I think that we would all agree that, again, in front of and behind the camera, there's just been a lot of passion along the way. And so, I'm just curious to see where it goes from here.
Always a question after every guest. Okay, here's my question for you. Okay, so I heard that you did struggle with anxiety at an early age. Now, what I find interesting is that you also found your home in botanical gardens and an overall theme of nature conservation. Now, I would imagine when it comes to those kind of things, one of the things that you would have to keep in mind is taking great care of the plants, making sure that they're in good, for the lack of a better word, they're alive. Okay, they're not dying
healthy.
Off. They're green, beautiful, full of life. Now, if you take the great care to those plants, how did you make sure that was also applied to your own personal issues with anxiety? Because when you don't do that, anxiety does become an issue to a point where it becomes so incapacitating. So, how did you do that? And especially, also, you're an actor. The fact that you're being so courageous enough to put yourself on stage, that does not help with the anxiety part.
Oh, no.
It just puts yourself on a display for everybody. So my question to you is basically with the mixture of botanical gardens and the interest in nature conservation, how were you able to make sure that you're taking care of yourself with the issue of anxiety?
Good question. So I feel like the through line for that is really listening. So I feel like people will talk about like, I talk to my plants, like I whisper to my plants. But more scientifically speaking, it's like you make observations. You make scientific deductions of like, well, based on this, I can tell that this has happened.
Okay.
What has been the cause? It's cause and effect. I think that's what it is. And so whenever we think of science, it's the cause and effect. So we see the effects when we really try to ask scientific questions to see like what was the cause of it. So I think it's the same thing with me as I try to listen to my body and just get in tune with that. So with acting, you just have to be present. You have to be aware of who you are in space and time and given circumstances. And so I think that has been the same thing. So I started out as an orchid horticulturist. And so people think that orchids are really hard to take care of. And I always say that it's not. We just like to abuse them and put them in spaces that are comfortable for us, but not for them. And I think that is true for people as well. We like to put people where we think they belong. And I don't think that always does them well. And so I feel like for me, it's like I put myself in theater because I wanted to be there. And at first, I had to acclimate. We say that plants have to acclimate. If you put them from this circumstance over to this other environment, they need time to acclimate. So I think that in college, I was not a star, y'all. I was not a college like rock star in theater. I was nervous. It was bad, y'all. I got on stage and it was just like wet. It was not cute at all. But I feel like I gave myself years to acclimate to it. Still on the journey. We're still all living, growing, all these things. But yeah, I feel like I put myself in an environment that I wanted to be in. And because of that, like I've just started to surround myself with the right people who are equally as passionate and are where they want to be. And I feel like there's this synergy that's created. So another part of it is just not realizing that it's not a solo journey. So I think that's also helps with the anxiety, is realizing it's not a solo journey, but realizing that there are other people around you going through similar things, or that you can feed off of, that are there for you as well. So that's helped to calm the anxiety as well. It's like, it's gonna be all right. We're all in this together. We haven't done this podcast before. We're all in this together. You know?
Where you're planted, baby.
Yeah.
That is such a beautiful answer. The one more thing I want to add to that is it still connects, if you think about it, pretty still connects to the teacher. So if you think about it, a garden, we have a caretaker, that's you, right? You're taking great care of each plant, but the plants could also represent, as a teacher, those are the kids that you're also helping them grow, make sure that they're acclimating to the environment, especially those that do not feel seen and heard, and also they are in a minority. So if we think about orchid as a type of species that needs great care, but they're also the type that might not live long if not get put in the right environment. We're all just powerful in that way. The fact that each of you have this capability to make sure that you cultivate the environment and the future, that's something that's something that you should always be proud of yourself for taking that responsibility on. And the last thing I would say is what touched me was the way you explained about how with anxiety and with just being around with the right people, what I found really beautiful is that oftentimes when we see a beautiful flower, they're always the first ones to go because people will pick them up, often forgetting that when you do pick them up, they die out.
Yes, poaching is real, y'all.
So in our pursuit of our career, sometimes we might forget that we're also that same flower. We're literally sacrificing ourselves and the time and effort that it takes to make something so meaningful. So I think we should all remember to, as we get picked up by each of the flowers, like we're the flowers, we have to remember that we have to make our lives meaningful and impactful and not filled with any sense of hatred and negative emotions. We have to leave this world better than we were born into.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Good job. All right, your turn.
All right. I'm also going to take you back in time for a moment. As previously mentioned, theater was my thing. Theater has been my bread and butter for as long as I can remember. And whenever it came time to go off to college, I was like, you know what, Mom and Dad? I'm going to study theater. And they were like, oh, you're going to, cool. And this is like coming off the brink of like having a sister who was salutatorian, having a sister who got a very large scholarship to a private university in Louisiana. And then there's me, the second one, wanting to be a cute little artist. I say that, but they're very accepting of my journey now. But when I came into college, that was pre-transition. So I was still identifying as a female. I was identifying as a lesbian at the time, which there's also a lot of lore there we can unpack. But it was in between my freshman and sophomore year of college whenever I started transitioning. So I started socially transitioning, and then a couple months later, I started medically transitioning. And whenever I entered college, I had intentions of just studying performance. But whenever I started my transition, nobody in the department really knew what to do with me. Acting became very uncomfortable for me to do because it's hard enough to act as it is. It's even harder to act when you don't feel comfortable in your own body. So there was just like this huge disconnect. So I started studying technical theater. I was kind of pushed in that direction, but it ultimately served me because I did fall in love with it. But I actually was not performing for many years in college, and it wasn't until the semester before my senior year where Del Shores was holding auditions for a play that he was commissioned to write at my university. And I just, as soon as I knew he was coming, I knew that I was going to be in this show. And I don't know how to explain it. I don't mean it in a cocky way. I was just like, oh, Del Shores is coming here? I'll be in his show. Absolutely. So I auditioned for his show with an original monologue that spoke about the struggles of being trans. And in his words, it was one of the best auditions he had seen, which means a lot to me to this day. And from there, I was cast in his show. He wrote this very beautiful character for me, and it was my first time playing a trans character on stage. From there, after working on that project and studying with him in his Acting for the Camera masterclass, I knew deep down inside that Del was going to be a huge segue for me in my career. And then lo and behold, it is fall of 2023. Del reaches out to me and he says, hey, I just got this incredible script from one of our writers in our writer's search. His name is William. I'm going to connect you with him. The role in this script is yours unless you mess it up. He used stronger words. Unless you mess it up. And I read the script and I kind of just broke down immediately because it was the first time that I had really seen myself in a character. So I've always said that with really good acting, you shouldn't have to reach super far. And with this character, I did not have to reach far at all. There were so many shared lived experiences that were written into Leon, which also, just a side note, whenever I told my family that my name was Liam, my stepdad, being the clown of a man that he is, was like, oh, Leon? Did you say that your name is Leon? And he still to this day calls me Leon. Wow. So whenever I received the script from Will and the character's name was Leon, I was like,
wow.
Yeah, this is my role. It was just one of those like cosmically connected things. But yeah, this character really felt like a reflection of me in a lot of ways. So I am very, very grateful that I was able to play this role.
Question time!
I love a question.
All right, so growing up, it sounds like you did have a sense of black sheep, feeling like a black sheep, especially when you're in the transition phase. But also, it does sound like you also kind of struggle with body dysmorphia because there's like a huge disconnect, and that's why you had to go through the entire transition phase. And then one thing I really found that I think is really lucky for you to have is that your dad, you mentioned that he has a clown of the family. Oftentimes, father figures. There are a lot of father figures that have a very strong sense of conservative views. And with conservative views, it would also play a huge factor in most children when they grow up. They have to mold them by instilling some of the values that they were taught. So by hearing the fact that your dad had like the sense of humor, which also connects to theater, it must have made it easier to understand the world in your own way without feeling pressure to live up to the conservative views that he used to live with. So my question to you is this: with all of those struggles and things that you had to learn how to live with, what is the one thing that you were so proud of contributing to this film for the people that struggle the exact same thing that you're going through and are still going through and working to become better at?
Really, visibility. Visibility is the most important thing. I've said it before. I'll say it again. There is not an abundance of trans mask representation, specifically not a bunch of trans mask queer representation. And being visible really demystifies the trans experience. Like that, I think, is my whole purpose as a person, specifically as an artist, is demystifying the experience. And just talking about it, like, you don't have to suffer in silence. And I think that speaking about all of the trauma that you went through, as unfortunate as it is to relive it sometimes, like, you need to express to your community how this is a unified struggle. You're not alone. Hi, here's everything that I went through. I think that you can relate to this. Let's talk about it. And let's, again, demystify it, because I've received the most absurd questions from every walk of life since I've started transitioning, many ways in disrespectful, but a lot of ways out of genuine curiosity. And if we just talked about it more, you wouldn't be feeling so alone. You wouldn't be feeling so isolated. So the most important thing to me is just speaking on it.
What was the painful part about feeling alone and in a world where you felt like no one was ever going to understand you? Because you spoke on visibility. What is the one painful thing that you had to live through without giving the equal amount of visibility? I would imagine. Do you have brothers, sisters?
I have 5 siblings.
Okay, okay. One more question, then we're gonna move on to the segment. I'm going to make an assumption that, and also follow that up by saying that. Well, I'll follow up first, and I'll ask. In a family setting, parents, we always try to do their best to give equal share, fair share of attention to each children because they need that, especially when they grow up. Now, of course, there will be kids that may not turn out the way the parents thought they would, because unfortunately, one thing I've learned from the previous episodes that parents should have to learn how to not change the child into who they want to be, but rather, like as a botanical gardener, they have to foster them to create an environment that makes them feel so happy about who they are. So in your case, having brothers and sisters, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, you have siblings. How did you go about making sure that you didn't feel like you were invalidated and not enough if you weren't given enough visibility from your parents?
So it was an interesting reaction on all sides of my family, because for context, I have divorced parents.
Yes.
And everyone took it very differently, but everyone took it very hard at first. It was to a point where with certain sides of my family, I actually did cut myself off from them for an extended period of time, because unfortunately I was receiving very intense text messages every day. I was receiving like Bible verses every day and a lot of condemning words on the daily basis. And I had to isolate myself. I had to distance. And at that time, it was many years ago. So a few of my siblings who were younger than me, I was not speaking to them for a bit. I even one of my family members was like telling me how selfish everything that I was doing was, and have you even considered how this will affect your sisters? Have you even considered how this will affect us? And for me, as much as it really messed me up, I took the distance and the space that I needed and was like, hey, I provided you with the resources that you needed to understand. Like whenever I came out, I gave everyone in my family like pamphlets and links and resources to try to understand. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink it. So I distanced myself, but through the distance, I did not let that stop me from being me. I did not suppress myself. I continued to be genuine and continued to be me. Over time, I did receive the necessary apologies from those family members, and we did build that bridge. And I think that the most important thing that I did was staying true to myself, because it showed my siblings, like, they won't say it, but I think that they kind of saw a lot of that courage from me, and I think that it did shape them a bit in a way, because there's some intensity in a lot of aspects of my family, but just staying strong in my values, I think, made all the difference in the world.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Seriously. Okay. All right. That's a segment of our introduction. Okay. I'm gonna ask one more question, and then we're gonna take a break. When you do that, guys, popcorn, soda, Gatorade, Powerade. What drink were you drinking?
Oh, I had a NOCO.
Oh yeah.
I had a NOCO. A NOCO BCAA. It's a natural. It's a natural energy drink. It's got 200 milligrams of caffeine, but it's sugar-free and naturally flavored. Lots of vitamins. Delicious.
Even think about getting that before we come back to the show, okay? All right, so now my question for all of you is this. Given the fact that we have a teacher, I'm just going to call you a musical producer because I can't think of any other name, okay? And we have a botanical gardener, and we have someone who's now becoming an educator. Speaking as a minority, each one of you represent a specific minority. As a whole and individually, what is the one thing that you are so proud of bringing in terms of the message? Those minorities that deserve to be seen and heard. I want for you guys to share to the audience why and how you contributed and how they also can contribute outside of creative projects too.
So I think what you're saying is that even though we may look different and we come from different backgrounds and different places, we're able to share so many things. Love is universal. Acceptance and understanding can be universal if we allow it to be. I think we all came from such different places, but yet we clicked immediately. And it's not always like that, especially, I mean, I've sung in a lot of bands, and a lot of times they don't all get along and they butt heads, and it's, every man for himself. But this cast and crew, like literally everybody was here for each other. Everybody was just so accepting and loving from day one before we even met each other. And I think there's no reason why the world can't be like that if we just let go of our own stupid selfish pride and whatever, and just let people live their lives, So I think there's an important thing to be said for just, let people be people, and you do you, I'll do me, but we can get along while we're doing that. Yeah.
I actually want to, you just said something that made me remember I wanted to say to Liam. So you mentioned that visibility. Family is not always bound by blood. The way you guys have described,
Amen.
That can also be a family where you are able to feel the fullest of who you are. That's all I wanted to say. It's not a question. It is, but I appreciate you passing the microphone. Let's give an applause for Jason for helping out with the microphone. Come on now. Okay.
Superman job. That's what Superman does.
Go ahead, Cece.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really passionate about this subject, and I'm gonna try and keep it concise, but
no. Don't keep it concise. Speak on this.
I'm like Dolores, who just blabs on.
I'm gonna start this off with a question. I mean, I'm a Hispanic woman, and how many Hispanic women do you see on TV every day? How many Hispanic leaders do you see every day? Women specifically.
No.
I mean, most of our roles are cooking, cleaning, and taking care of people. And I grew up watching that from my mom and my grandma. And I never saw them be able to take care of themselves. And that's something that I had to unlearn, but also take that unconditional love and that just acceptance and resilience with me, and be able to kind of break that cycle. And with my passion being a creative, specifically in music, I definitely want to be an example for young Hispanic girls, and to be able to see them, for them to see me, and for them to be like, hey, I want to be like her, or I can be like her, because if she can do it, I could do it. And that's not only from my background, it's also in the way I look. I think there's so much pressure to look a certain way and to fit a certain mold. And I think as long as a healthy body is a beautiful body, and because we come from all different types of backgrounds, everyone's going to look a little different. We should celebrate that. We don't all have to look the same. And just being an example, just kind of exactly what Liam was saying, being visible and being your truest, most authentic self, because that is what inspires other people to do the same. So yeah, I mean, I could talk about it for forever, but
you didn't talk forever.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like that was enough, but those are. I'm happy with the answer. We're gonna go back to your minority topic, okay?
Sure.
Your turn, Jason.
Yes. Okay. So for me, I'm just, again, I think it's just the visibility matters. I don't want to be up on a platform or I don't want to be put on a platform, but I understand that when I step out of my door, like, people are going to see this. So I understand that, like, that's what people see. So they will treat me a certain way. Certain things might happen differently to me than it might to other people at this table. But I think it's really important that people just are themselves, because I have been told for most of my life that I am not Black enough. And that is something that really is hurtful, because I don't have another choice. Like, I'm going to be Black no matter what I do, no matter where I go. And so these are people on both sides who are Black, people who are not Black, who tell me that I'm not Black enough. It's like, trust me. when the police see me, I'm black enough. Okay? When the media sees me, I'm black enough. And so I think that it is so important for people to check themselves whenever they say that and really think about what they mean when they say that. Because I was raised that I am going to walk through life like this, be aware of it, but do not let it hold you back. So in my other life, working at a botanical garden, I've been to conservation conferences, and out of hundreds of people, there were 2 of us there, you know? So for me, a big platform is just talking about the environment. The environment is for everyone, but there's these stereotypes that like black people don't swim, we don't go outside, there's insects out there. I love being outside. I love it. I love it. I love being outside doing yard work. My neighbors will tell you I am out there just sweating it out. I love the outdoors. And so I don't want to be held back from those spaces because I look like this. That's stupid. I think that's so stupid. And so even when it comes to art, it's like I appreciate that I can just be. Like the script doesn't bring up that Roger's African American, but I happen to be African American. And I think that's the best way to introduce these topics and diversity is just have people represented on camera, just doing their things, loving how they love, and not having to comment on who they are. Because again, people who need to see it will see it. They will see that Roger is this. They will see that Liam is this. They'll see that Cece is that. Like they know, they see. The people who need to see it will pick up on it without having to explicitly say it.
Absolutely.
So I think it's good. I think it's good art. I think it's good art when you just have people represented. They're here, literally here at the table, and you don't have to say it. You don't have to verbalize it.
You know, visibility, like every societal change that we have seen in our lifetime and before our lifetimes always comes with seeing what happens first. It has to, somebody out there has to be the first one to take the step. And, you know, usually when they take the first step, when the crowd sees that, when they see it's so visible enough, they will want to follow because they believe, because that person is showing what they are, what they also believe in. And what becomes from one person, it also becomes a crowd, and from a crowd, it becomes like a collective, and from a collective, it becomes like Thanos' army that is about to fight and make a societal change, which I think is so important. And especially touching back on the minority, I hate this microphone. I think it's because the things that you guys are saying are so fire that I just want to stay away. You see, it keeps doing this. But going back, jokes aside, I love the fact that you talked about visibility, but also the minority. It's so sad enough to see the people that, especially the color of our skin and the ethnicity that we have to live with, being the ones that are responsible to show that it can be different, because sometimes it's hard enough when we see our family members not know and not see that that's not all they can be. They can be more than just that. And at the end of the day, just like what all flowers and plants do, we all are reduced into nothing more than soil and things that will help the earth. When we die, it doesn't matter if we're black, white, any other color out there, okay? It doesn't matter, because when we die, we become bones, and we all return our bodies to the earth. Well, what matters is how we leave it behind. Yes. Okay? Anyways, that's what I want to touch on. You two mentioned something that I really love what you just said. Anyways, your turn, Lee.
I touched a good bit on it earlier, but as previously mentioned, visibility, vulnerability. I think that is the strongest thing that you can do as an artist, as a person, as a human being in general. Being most authentically you and being honest about that. Because your most authentic form, your most authentic, unaltered form is going to touch someone. And having a platform, like Jason said, like you don't always want to have a platform, but you need to recognize that the power that you existing as yourself is, and that is a platform in itself. It really changes lives. Had there been more representation visible when I was growing up, I think that I would have saved myself a lot of trauma. I would have saved myself a lot of anxiety. I would have saved myself a lot of suicidal thoughts, which is why the things that we do now are so important to other members of our community, because it's not just you. You're not just alone. And it makes it so much easier when you can see that.
Can we give a round of applause for each of the guests here? Am I the only one? Oh my goodness. Yo, I'm working with a tough crowd apparently. Oh my goodness. We're gonna take 5 here. I'm gonna double check everything. But guys, you did great. And when we come back, we're gonna go dive into the film itself. Yes. You all did fantastic. Now, class dismissed. Go get some water. Come back when the bell rings.
Thank you.
Hi guys, Kino here. Just wanted to take a second to say thank you so much to each and every single one of you that has been with me on this journey for Hidden Record and just sharing all these stories of all of the creatives that have appeared on the show. If you enjoy deep conversations like this, make sure to hit like and subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on a podcast platform like Spotify, make sure you follow that so you won't be out of the loop for every month because I try to drop at least 2 episodes. So grab your popcorn and soda and let's get back to our conversation. We're now going to dive into the actual film itself. But before we do that, I'd love to get you guys to have some of the socials so you can keep up with their journey as well. So let's start with from the left all the way to the right.
My name is Michelle Edge. I guess we'll go Instagram is at, and this is all one word, Meg Chick Singer, MEG, and then Chick, and then Singer, all together. Would be my main thing. You can find me on Facebook, Michelle Fiona Diva Shell. There's a long and storied history behind that name. So it's a few of my nicknames just kind of crammed together. Most people call me Diva. My cup here will let you guys know that. I'm not sure why, because I'm so shy and retiring, but... But yeah, those would be my main socials, I guess.
My Instagram is the handle is at the Violent Orchid. We can actually get into it because we're connected in that way. And I'm really only active on Instagram. I have a website in the works, but you can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud under the same name. And then my artist name is just my first name, Deandra, Dyandra. So please listen to the music. And there's definitely more music coming. So.
Oh, look at that.
Mine's simple. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at my full name. That's not it. It's at Jason Jamal Ligon. Period.
Followed.
So you can find me on Instagram and Snapchat at Leemsbeans. That is LeemsBeens. On my Facebook is Liam M. Gardner. I don't have Twitter/X. It was bad for my mental health.
And also our esteemed director William Medlek. I noticed that you changed your username from Swagmaster Box 5000 something. It is now the William Mecklenson. I have speech impediment. Speech impediment, guys. Hearing loss.
Speak during this.
Yeah, go on. Come here. Just come in here. Oh, guys, look at that. He's making an appearance.
I guess I'm making an appearance.
Come on, big cheese.
Hi, yes. Hi, my name is Will. I am the stage mom of all of these amazing, incredible people. I've been behind the camera the entire time. I did change my Instagram name from Swagmaster Box Top 5000. I realized, okay, I need to make it a little bit more professional, but still keep it unhinged. So my name is Willard Metlockson. Okay, so it's Willard, Will A-R-D, Metlock, METTLACHSON. It's the same on all my platforms. I'm on TikTok, on all of the things for all the Gen Z and Alphas and ish. And yeah, you can also follow the journey of Smoke Breaks at Smoke Breaks Film on Instagram as well.
Period.
Bam!
Come on, round of applause for Will.
Yes.
Yes.
Willard, as it were.
Okay, and also the BTS is Hannah Gregory. Come on, Hannah. Come on. Bring it in. Okay, microphone. Who's doing that? Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Hannah Day Gregory, H. Gregory Photography.
Great photographer. Hire her for services.
You better check out her work.
Very
It's sickening.
cornstarchy, by the way.
That's a compliment. In case you're wondering.
Yes, girl.
All right, guys. I don't know what chapter we're in, but I'll just call it chapter 2. We are now going into the what's the best title? We're just gonna go to the film. Okay, well, we're focusing on the characters now. Buckle your seats because this shit is about to go wild. Okay, here we go. Question number 1. It's for you, Liam. Okay, are you ready?
Allegedly.
Your support for the Okra Project focuses on the nourishing and supporting the Black trans individuals. How did this activism influence your portrayal of a trans character facing personal challenges in the film, particularly around themes of intimacy and identity?
So the Okra Project has resonated very deeply with me since the day I first learned about them. As you said, it's Black Trans Mutual Aid, specifically in regards to feeding Black trans people, making sure that they're getting good, nourishing meals, because it is the most difficult part of the community to be in, is to be a Black trans person, specifically a Black trans woman. So I love what the Okra Project stands for. And the most important thing to me is mutual aid and supporting your community. So what I took from, what they stand for and how I integrated that into this performance is just the taking care of one another. The community is what has kept me alive. Community is what keeps me going, and community is a big part of this film. Community and connection and caretaking. So I kind of took that message and wove it into my intentions as a performer.
How do you see yourself implementing that eventually when you do have a family? Because, guys, we don't stay as kids. We eventually turn into adults, and eventually we have to pass on that legacy. So how would you want to build your community around your family in the future if you do choose to follow that decision? How would you want to build that kind of community and foster that environment for the kids that you eventually want to have?
Whether it be biological or chosen, I think that one of the most important things that you can do is bring people together, have a reason to bring people together. Like, I love cooking for people. It's something that I enjoy doing. In college, at one point I lived with 7 other roommates in college. We had a very large house. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, all theater kids at that. So it was never boring. we could do a whole podcast on that. But one of my favorite things that we would do is everyone would get together and we would cook something. And just, I find that there's a lot of intention that you can put into a meal that really translates into inner warmth that exudes outward whenever you share that with someone. So even if it's something as simple as cooking a great meal for family members, I think that's a great way to foster community, to foster deepening connections, and to just bring people together, because we're rapidly approaching a time in which isolation is becoming the norm. And I think that isolation is contributing to a lot of mental decline. And the most important thing that you can do is see the people that you love and have those shared experiences together. So just bringing people together. Everybody wants a good meal. So let's eat, let's gab, let's share the love. That's what I want to do with my family.
Okay, and then the last thing is, what is the one mistake that you want to avoid by making the same mistakes that everybody else has been doing, and when it comes to bringing awareness to the community that we all come from? Now, how do we do that for the kids that you want to make sure that they're growing up in a life where there's no sense of confusion as far as who they are and who they want to be?
I think that one of the most important things that I have learned is eliminating projections. I think projecting your ideals, your assumptions, what you want onto another person is one of the most dangerous things that you can do. It's so damaging. They say assuming makes an ass out of you and me. And projections come along with a lot of assumptions, and I think that it's so dangerous. Like, you need to be acting like this. I expect you to be acting like this. I expect you to be feeling like this. It's so damaging. It's something that I catch myself doing every day, whether it be in my relationship with my friends, with my family members. You need to drop the projections, drop the expectations, and embrace the authenticity that is being portrayed, because the most dangerous thing that you can do is expect something from someone, because that's how you think it should be. That's not the reality.
I love what you just said. Now, when it comes to each and one of you guys, so you said about how, like, projection. Now, let's acknowledge some of the things that we already have stated here. You have trouble with the kids and making sure that you don't want to, I don't know how to phrase it, but like, you're trying to balance between projecting what you think they should be exposed to without coming off as someone that is already pushing too much on the kids, especially when they're growing up as a student. Music, and also the minority as a Hispanic woman, based on what you said, where I saw my grandma and my mom and all of your family generation, all of that living this certain way that you know for sure that it can be more than just that. That's a projection in by itself. As a Black person, all of this culture that is just so toxic and unhealthy, and even with the political authority figures, as well as the police, all of that, that is also a projection that has been put into the community that you are part of that is so unfair and should not have been that way and should not be in the future. And same way with you, especially with transitioning into a different type of person where a lot of people have a hard time understanding. So, how did each and one of you contribute to smoke breaks when it comes to the idea and combating projection?
I think kind of like what Liam said is that if you have expectations of other people, that's maybe where sometimes your disappointment lies, because you have this idea of you should be this way or you should be that way or whatever, based on maybe your growing up background or maybe based on your, I don't know, your political affiliations or whatever. And like you said, as a teacher, I never want to look at a kid and think there's not potential. I never want to look at them and even if they're underperforming as a student, academically, there's potential for something there. So I never want to discourage whatever's going on. So I try to treat everyone as equally as possible. And even though that's a treacherous way to say things, because it's not pie, right? And we're not all entitled to a share of whatever. I try to extend that into just the human world too, and not put my expectations on people. And I really sometimes it's a struggle to just see people how they are and to just love them where they're at. But I think that's what we sort of have to work at, is just love people where they are and not where I want them to be or where I think they should be. And the thing is everybody's struggling with things that we don't necessarily know about. Like I don't bring it all into the classroom. I got stuff going on at home that I just leave there. I don't bring it in, and I know they do too. And especially as teenagers, like it's hard enough to be a teenager on a regular quote unquote level without any of the extra stuff going on. And so I think in our society, because we have all these platforms and because we have all these socials and et cetera, like maybe we are a little bit more able to visualize differences and to see sort of beyond our own world. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to accept or we're going to understand. But I think, like you keep saying, everybody keeps saying visibility is really helpful in at least seeing outside your own little box. So am I always good at not projecting on people? Absolutely not. Because I think we all have to, it's so easy, yes, to look at somebody else and say, oh, I would never. But then I have to think, well, I don't know if I would ever, because that's not happening to me. Or maybe that's never going to happen to me. Like you said, all of our experiences as human beings are just different because they just are. But that's what we have to work on is kind of just meeting people where they are and working together.
And how did you do that with your character, and especially the interaction between you and Liam's character?
Sure. So acting sometimes is reaching beyond yourself and playing a different character and being able to be somebody else. But also method acting means that you take on that character or maybe you already are that person. And so, like I've said before, Dolores is already in me. So I was already the Michelle Visage, right? So it was very easy just I'm not quite as old as Dolores probably, and I'm not from New York, but it was very easy just to be like, oh, sweetie, baby, darling, I got you, And it was so natural. Like I never even met Liam, but I was like, I love you so much. And so that's I don't think I put all that thought into it ahead of time really. But I think the more I'm sitting here talking about it, the more I'm like, we interact with so many people on a daily basis, and you're not going to treat everybody the same way, but maybe if you're just kind to people, that goes a long way.
I think with my character Cece, it really I think boils down to just authenticity.
Okay.
I believe when you are fully authentically yourself, it invites others to do the same thing. And some people aren't going to understand that or be comfortable with that. It's going to trigger some people because they simply don't understand. They've never been introduced to something like that before. But it opens up the conversation, and we're all human beings. We are no one is perfect. We make mistakes every day, and we all have our own insecurities. So I think projecting is a part of the human experience, but when you're able to tap into your emotional intelligence and kind of reel it back and be like, hey, maybe I need to just realign my thoughts, my behaviors, and be more accepting, or maybe you're nice and meditated and ready to go and you're a safe space. So it comes in waves, but I think with Leon and Cece, there is so much more to the story than what we see in Smoke Breaks. Leon and Cece specifically have a long lasting friendship, and I think it's well versed and very apparent in the 12 minutes that Smoke Break is. So, yeah.
Well, I wanted to acknowledge, if you guys watched the previous episode with William did mention that the idea of Smoke Breaks, it all boiled down to the experience that, I think it was the sister, correct? The Smoke Breaks that inspired the title.
So the story, like part of the name Smoke Breaks, right, is I was very much inspired by the conversations that my sister would have with her clients and the conversations that she would have with her coworkers, right? Because there was something weirdly romantic over these life-changing conversations over something that could inherently kill you. And I thought there was some kind of magic there. And Courtney, if you're watching this, like my sister, all like these conversations that she would have with like her gay besties and her, with her coworkers and her clients, like she would get told, oh my God, I'm getting married, or oh my God, I'm having, a kid, or oh my God, I got this huge promotion, right? There was something about having that conversation over a cigarette, because it's anybody who's like a cigarette smoker or anything like that, they know these types of conversations where it's just this conversational bridge. And I think it's something that can kind of be replicated through coffee. I think it's something that can be replicated through getting a drink with your friends, just having that external thing be the bridge of these conversations. That's something that I wanted to replicate in the conversations between Cece and Leon, and I think that Deandra and Liam really replicated that conversation really, really well. I mean, anybody who watches the film, they can really see how impactful their performance is. It's incredible. The talent that these actors have, it's insurmountable, really. And I think that everything that I had in my head with the conversations I saw with my sister and her coworkers, it showed on screen. A lot like Cece, even though my sister isn't a Latina, or a Hispanic woman, she is an Italian-American woman, and a lot of Cece, a lot of my own sister is brought into the character of Cece. I want you to meet her so much. She's, that's really what inspired the title of Smoke Breaks, because there's something weirdly intimate over having those conversations over a smoke break.
What was the word? It was projection. Projecting.
Yes.
So I'm going to maybe comment on a different angle of it.
Yes.
So when I think of projecting, I'm thinking of the technique of acting. Multiple techniques out there. But whenever I approach a scene when I'm acting, I've been trained to not project how the scene will go. So it's like, I read this, so it's like, okay, so by this point I need to be happy. I need to be excited about it. It's like, you don't always know that's how it's going to go. And so I feel like for me, as a person, not trying to project how the character is going to feel at a certain point in time in the script is important. So whenever we hear action, it's like how you're feeling in that moment. All of our lived experiences have brought us to that moment. So as we were saying before, it's like, yes, I'm this, yes, I'm that, yes, I'm that. African American, work in conservation, all this stuff. Nobody cares about all that stuff, but it does influence how I arrive to that moment in time. And so I think that it's when I hear how do I not project, it's really about those moments in time. Okay, I'm on camera. I don't care. It's like we would do it in the bed scene. First thing, it's like you wake up in the morning. How do I feel in the morning? Rough. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're thinking of so many things when you first wake up. I don't know about other people, but I'm already thinking of hundreds of things before I roll to that side of the bed. And so it's like I feel like I don't have to project. I'm working to like not project how the scene will go, how exactly I'm going to feel, because it's going to be different take to take, all of that. And so I think that that's important to create that authenticity, as we've said, is just being in the moment and that lived experience at that point in time when it's time for that take, I think is really important to help capture that magic.
I did see that you had a lot of experience in stand-up comedy.
A lot.
And so with the projection thing, how going back to this universal statement, laughter is often the medicine to most of our pains. So with the stand-up comedy, you also mentioned that word by word, comedy taught you that the world has a space for your big ideas when you surround yourself with the right people. Now, when you think about that, how did that help you balance between comedy and also while making sure that you're taking great care of the serious undertones throughout this entire film, especially the dynamic between your character and Leon's character?
Yeah.
How did you balance between comedy while making sure that it doesn't come off as offensive?
Yes. Okay. So fact checked. So again, the internet is full of wonderful things and deep research. So I've done comedy. I've thought about doing comedy for a long time. I did stand up once so far. I'm scheduled to do it again. I'm scheduled to do it again. So I have lots of friends who are comics in Atlanta, and it's a great scene. And I am learning. I'm crafting all of that. But I've had a running note in my phone for I think it's 6 years that I saw of just like when I think things are funny, I write them down and I giggle to myself. And so I just went back to that note whenever I was working on that first stand-up routine. And I think lots of things are funny. On the drive here, I was like, "Ooh, that's cute. Let me write that down." I was like, "I'll use that later." But
you writing during the film last night.
yeah, it's just like little things. It's tiny little things. And again, I think they're funny. But it also helps of life is hard. Life is dramatic, all of that. But I love to find the comedy in life. Like certain things are just really funny. Like, "Ooh, I'm straddling a leg of a table over here. I think that's cute." I think it's Nobody knows, you know? But it's like, I think that's a funny moment to make something more serious, a little lighthearted. And so I think as it relates to the film, though, I think it's important to also find the real life moments. There are a lot of times when it's like things are funny, things are not planned, they're not dramatic, all of that. And so the bringing in those comedic moments into different scenes, it's what happened. Like it's what organically happens in that moment. As I was saying earlier, it's like, just don't forget about the training and it's like, no, this is hilarious to me in this moment. It reminds me of a computer scene, no spoilers, but there's a computer scene with Roger. And I was like, in the moment, I was like, this is what I would do. And so I went for it. I made a choice. It made the final cut. You'll have to see the film. But I think that got a little more than a giggle from the audience, because I think it was one of those lived-in moments of what would you do in that situation. You'll have to watch to find out.
Well, love the answer. Yeah. And also, since we're on the topic of your character and also Leon's character, there's this section in the film where it was my own interpretation of it, but when the idea after Deandra's character, okay, great, her character, when Leon's character and your character were talking about the struggle of the relationship where it became so stale, and then you ended up having to depend on the tarot card reading. The part that hit me in the end, I was like, what the fuck? That's not how I thought it would end. Yay. Which was, yes, your relationship will be clarified by a third person. When it ended, the way I was like, holy shit, that was a good... William, you did good. That was good. So the reason why I'm asking is this. So with Roger and Leon's character, if we watch the film, there's this immediate change where when you brought up, how do you feel about open relationships? And then your character, for some reason, had this like change in how Roger saw Leon. What I found interesting about that is if we look at the modern dynamics of in today's relationships, open relationships are often really hard to navigate. And so how did that change in the script and how you acted that out? How did that influence and shape your thinking and outlook on the idea of open relationships?
Yes. So I think that this was that the way that Roger reacted to all of that is different than how I have reacted in the past with a specific relationship when it comes to open relationships. Context, very different. But still, my reaction to the possibility of opening up a relationship personally is very different than Roger's. Since then, growth has happened, talks have happened, all of that stuff. But I think what I appreciate the writing of this film because, and any good work of art, because it challenges the artist as well, to challenge thinking, perspectives, all of that. And so I appreciate having to take a deep dive and go back to that place and think about that relationship and the idea of open relationships. And for Roger and Leon's characters in that moment, I thought it was so important. You're seeing an older, more mature Jason in that Roger that you see, and allowing that to be a possibility. And I think, as you said before, it's the projection. I think there is that idea of how Leon thinks or perceives Roger will react to bringing up this possibility. But then in the moment, that character, the significant other, Roger, is accepting of it. And I think that is if it's brought up properly, the idea of an open relationship can be an option. And I think that is a beautiful moment that I was able to realize on film, is that that is a possibility. And I think it also just shows that if you see the film, it can create more intimacy in a relationship if you're able to speak more openly about those tough subjects.
Going back, if you watched the episode of William and hit record, one of the favorite things I love what he said about in that episode is conversations. Not only did it happen in pre-production where William had multiple hard conversations with the producer and the director and DP. Shout out to you, Calliope Films, Chris, and Sierra. What I love about that, and it connects to what you just said, conversations. If we just open up about what we really want, it will just make things so much easier. But instead, we're here playing mind games. We're not Professor X here, okay? We have to use words. But that's my spiel on that. Your turn, Lee.
So I've had a couple of experiences with changing the boundaries in a way in some of my major relationships. It's something that if you ask me, like similarly to Jason, if you asked me years ago, like open relationships, I would have said absolutely not. But there's a lot more nuance to it than I think that people recognize. At the time when we were filming this, I was in a blooming relationship with someone, and interestingly enough, between then and now, we have had our own conversation of that sort. And this film actually had a lot to do with how we had that, or how I responded to that conversation. And honestly, projections, bringing it back up, has a lot to do with navigating that. Because, you know, it can be easy to take it personal and to think, oh, I'm not satisfying needs, there's something that I'm lacking. But you kind of need to think beyond that and think, no, there's a lot more gray here than there is black and white. Like, I got you, you got me, there's a lot of love here, but that's also something that we can potentially share with other people. So yeah, but in terms of this film, I think that Leon had an abundance of anxiety, specifically coming from a trans perspective as well, because it is very different moving through an open relationship through the lens of a trans person, trans queer at that, than just a queer person. There's a lot of fetishization when you're trans. There's a lot of, oh, this is so fun and exciting. Just 2 days ago, someone slid up on my boyfriend's Snapchat story and was like, oh, is your boyfriend trans? And he responded and said yes. And the person said, that's hot.
What?
Girl, I don't even know you. I don't even know you. The first thing you said to responses being trans is, that's hot. Very weird. So like those types of experiences were things that I was thinking about whenever I was going into this performance, because it's not as easy in this community when you are built different.
In that film, your character had this huge personality in the way they talk and the way they basically interact with your characters. How did you do your best to portray the best? How did you draw from your life experiences into portraying that specific character to the best capability that you could give? And that's one scene during the, I think, barbershop scene. Go ahead.
It was Leon's beauty salon scene.
I stand corrected. I apologize. Go ahead.
Dolores is a big character with a big personality, and luckily they put her in some big hair to help personify that. I kind of felt like Dolly Parton, to be quite honest. So, truth be told, that informs Dolores a whole lot, because, you know, Dolly's this larger than life, but everyone loves her kind of personality. And so being able to just draw on that, as well as, like I said, just the fairy gay mother thing I already got going on, like, it was no big deal at all just to be like, oh, I'm going to see my gay hairdresser today because of course I am. And that's just what I do. And why wouldn't I? So...
How did you draw from specific life experiences that helped you be able to create that specific way of interacting with his character?
Well, like I said, I've been around the community for so long, and it wasn't acting. It was literally just like, I'm going to see my friend, and, you know, there's all the love. Hey, baby, I'm doing this and that, and see you later. You know, so it was, I didn't have to reach very far for Dolores, to be quite honest, and I'm okay with that.
First of all, congratulations on being on the acting scene.
Hey, thank you.
Oftentimes when we're stepping into something uncomfortable, it's painful, scary, but you know what? We grow.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important thing. So how did you, as being that as your first experience as an actress, how did you portray that? By drawing from life experiences and making sure that it's accurate enough, especially when you're representing someone that's from a specific community that all of you have done a great job of representing your characters to make sure that it reflects almost the same way that your community would think, if that makes sense. So, as with your character, with your interactions during the smoke breaks, how did you draw from that with your life experiences and portraying that character?
Ironically enough, I've had real life conversations with my gay bestie, just like Cece and Leon had on screen. Obviously, the circumstances were different, and it's a little more complicated in the film. But I've had those really raw, vulnerable conversations of like, hey, I'm going through a rough patch. I really love this person, but I don't really know what to do because I know I have to love myself. And I was kind of having to be the voice of reason and the voice of reminding, you do have to love yourself and you do have to do what's best for you. But let's look at the bigger picture together. And I kind of, what Michelle said, I don't feel like I had to dig too deep to bring Cece to life, because I connected to her in so many ways right off the bat. One of those being the conversations, another one being the tarot cards. I'm a very spiritual individual. I actually do read tarot cards. And it was just easy, you know, it was simple. And I want to say that I think what makes Smoke Breaks so special is that every single one of us relate to our character so deeply, because we've been through the hardships and the pain and the sorrow and the mourning and the grief that is portrayed in the characters. And we were all kind of able to pull from our past and transform it and alchemize it into the art that we see in Smoke Breaks. I truly believe that's what makes this film so special.
So I'll start with Dolores' character.
Yes.
There has always, in my life, I've always been a mama's boy. Always been a mama's boy in any aspect of the word. I love meeting a mom. I love my mother figures. There's always been, whether it be a teacher, a peer, a colleague, there has always been some type of maternal figure in my life. And to me, Dolores was that maternal figure that we have this genuine bond and rapport. You might not be blood, but like we're family. We go way back. It's easy. I can be myself with you. I can be vulnerable with you. And it's just a genuine, loving, caring, maternal like relationship. So I didn't have to reach very far for that because there's always some type of divine feminine in my life that I share some deep connection with. And that's similarly to how I feel with Cece's character. I would be nothing if it weren't for my girls. Like there's like a strong like 3 female presenting people in my life who are my rock. I go to them with everything. A lot of them actually do read tarot as well. There's been so many times where I've hit up one of my girls and been like, a diva is down. I need to unpack. I'm going through a rough patch. And they're like, oh, do you want a reading? Yeah, I always want a reading. So again, I just didn't have to reach very far. And I feel so lucky to have been acting alongside these 2 people because we really didn't know each other before this, and we just moseyed onto set and had such a genuine connection. And again, it's not like we had to reach very far because it just felt like we were translating our lived experiences on screen with ease.
Well, okay, so we now have a couple themes: projection, the minority, and then also now the relatability, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. You all relate I'm gonna curse now, so fucking much to this characters. And now I want to add Jason's character into the mix. Okay, so relatability. There's a lot of things that you guys did a great job in expressing and making sure that the relationship dynamics between both of your characters were accurate enough. Now, especially with the loss of interest in one in your partner is almost going to be something that happens no matter what. And so when we look back on our past relationships, sometimes it's like there's this sense of shame, this sense of embarrassment, shame, and oftentimes guilt that when we start to lose interest at the other person, did we do something wrong? Are we being a bad person? Are we, especially in the community that you're representing, how did you navigate through the overwhelming sense of messages that you hear from in real life and also in your character when it comes to navigating the making sure that the relationship between your characters are healthy?
Yeah. Let's talk about Roger's journey.
Yes.
I feel like Roger's journey, from my point of view, is that he's realizing that his partner cannot fulfill all of his needs. And is it cheating? Is it bad for the relationship if you fulfill part of that relationship from a computer monitor, from another person who walks by on the street? I think that's the point at which the audience catches Roger in this journey, in this story. What got them there? What happened the morning before? All that stuff. I think it's interesting. We need to hear some more. We need to hear from more from Will about where this story.
Okay, we're bringing Will. Let's go.
So yeah, I think that's where for this short people will catch Roger, is at that point in time of like, and you can see it. I was feeling it of like, should I feel ashamed about what happened? Should I feel ashamed about opening up a relationship? And I think that it is active. It's like the earth has not been formed yet. It's like it's being formed. And I think that Roger's world is shifting in the scenes that we see him in with Leon.
And then what were your thoughts on what he just said? Because sometimes I love what you said. It happens so often. It's that when we start to look for other influences to satisfy especially our sexual needs, well, we're done. Like, it's right there. You are now actively making the choice whether you acknowledge that or not. It's a subconscious and a conscious choice to actively look for other sources to make you feel complete and satisfied, not from the other person. So how do you feel about that when you read that script?
It's funny that you brought up that specific point that Jason made, because that's what I was going to echo. I think that, and not everyone feels this way, but to me, it actually is quite selfish to expect one person to meet all of your expectations and to supply the solutions to all of your needs as a person. Because while your partner is your partner and that is your person, like, I can speak from personal experience, like, my person is my person. And I feel deeply about that, and I'm very certain about that. As much as I love him and as much as he loves me, there's parts that we're not always going to be able to support about each other. And that is okay. I think that there is a lot of reframing mindsets that we have to do around partner satisfaction. And, you know, you can think that I'm hot and sexy and you can meet a large portion of my needs, but, you know, you can also see somebody down the street and think they're hot and sexy. We could both think that they're hot and sexy, share something together, really access new layers to our relationship that you didn't think were possible. It's not always with malicious intent is the thing. I think it's actually quite selfless to recognize that there is more to you than me and what we share.
Relationships are like they're like crossword puzzles, and they're like those square you have to draw a pencil only to find out, shit, there is no exit. So what do? You go back out and try to fix everything to make sure you find a way out. You create your own way out. So that it's all so goddamn hard to navigate. So now we will now focus on the group itself. Looking back on the entire production itself, what were some of the ways that you guys, especially, I keep hearing this theme where, I didn't know them, but you know what? We're besties now. If we look back on the entire production itself, how did each and one of you work together to make sure that the chemistry that you showed on screen and also behind the scenes, what did you all do to make that possible? Let's start from right to left.
We're going to keep revisiting themes that we revisited.
Yay!
I think that we all just showed up as ourselves. Like, I don't know, like, the expectations weren't high or excruciating. It was, okay, we've had minimal amount of rehearsal time, and it was remote rehearsal time at that. I kind of have the vibe for, like, what's going on, but, like, let's meet in person. Let's gab it out and see where our middle ground is. Like, we went through intimacy training together, and I don't know, I think from an outsider's perspective, you would have watched that film and would have thought that we had been training for an extended period of time, but no, we did it during the days of shooting, which, shout out to Sierra, you were a phenomenal intimacy coordinator. Shout out to Sierra. That is such an overlooked job, but it's so important. But yeah, just showing up as our authentic selves and trusting each other. I think that trust is so important when you're creating a story and when you're doing a performance. And I think that we had such a strong level of trust, you and I, us together as well. Trusting your instincts and being vulnerable. Yeah.
Good answer.
Yes. Yeah, I think quickly I'll just add to it, just framing it in a different way is just open. So I came with like an open heart, open mind, no expectations of, all right, I'm going to show up and this is how we'll be. And so I think that adds a whole lot to the conversation. And I think that the other part would just be that when you show up, it's like you have to put yourself aside. Again, it's like show up to set ready to work. And I think that it's not just on camera, but it's also like behind set, in between takes, all of that, being courteous and conscious of the folks in the room and all of that, making sure that everybody's taken care of. That's really important. And yeah, I think that helped. And I'll also just say, like, it was a luxury to be able to even have those rehearsals. So I know that like theater is a much slower process. It's a more thorough process versus for a lot of like big budget films. It's like when they watch your self tapes or in-person auditions, like they want to see it ready to go package deal. Yep. So the fact that we did even have any virtual rehearsals was a luxury, and that we were able to form that closer connection with Sierra and Chris of Calliope, and that we were able to get a coffee with Will. Like that really did create more intimacy that you typically don't have that access to on a bigger film set.
You know, what you said really does reveal a lot of the things that most people do not even realize that needs to happen, especially when representing the communities. Because if we don't really open up ourselves to the people that we never met before, how the hell is that gonna translate so well on the screen? Which you both did a great job with. I love that scene where you also you portrayed the awkwardness and this, because sometimes people always think about the positive things, but we don't often think about the awkwardness, the real life scenarios that always happen. There's always gonna be moments where it's gonna be awkward, quiet, even some sense of discomfort. And you both did a great job, because we need to learn how to balance the two. Now, as you can see, a new person just appeared. We all manifested Will to come back.
Yes.
So, okay,
Yes.
like this particular question, I just really loved because, and I really wanted to kind of just add my point of view because a huge intention that I had when directing with everybody is that really set felt like recess, okay? And we... one thing that I learned from Luca Guadagnino, who's like a really famous director, is that he never actually had auditions. He had conversations, right? And even though we did have auditions, there were a lot of conversations that we would have all interpersonally in regards to the backstory of these characters. And I think that really, I think one thing that we talked about in our previous podcast was really how there's an entire life story behind the micro expressions that the characters portray, right? And there were a lot of conversations. They weren't necessarily rehearsals, but it was just simply lore behind all of these characters. And I think that helped create a lot of intimacy that we all kind of felt, not only between me and these actors, but also the actors themselves. It's just simply fully understanding the characters through and through. And that was another thing that Chris and Sierra and I had, is we had just simply a lot of conversation about the characters themselves. And I think that's what really helped create this really positively intimate, warm, welcoming environment. And again, the biggest thing that I said before we even greenlit the film is I said, I want this set to feel like recess. Even though, yes, it is a quote unquote job and we're, we all kind of got paid for it and and there's money involved. It's really us playing pretend with our friends. It's these friends that I now have that have helped create this story, and it's fun. It doesn't have to be this super big serious thing. Obviously, there is a level of seriousness, especially when it comes to intimacy coordination, but at the same time, there can be a lightheartedness to the seriousness, and that was something that I really wanted. I wanted every single individual here to feel unconditionally loved, because that is exactly what is in my head in the script, is unconditional love. I wanted to convey that to my castmates, and I wanted the castmates to, convey that with each other. And I think just having those conversations in the beginning really helped create what you kind of see on screen.
Again, the efforts that you have done, and especially Recess, most collaboration projects, especially passion projects, there are a lot of creators out there that, while they may have good intentions, sometimes we can come off as dismissive, especially when there's a lot of value in every people that we bring on the project. They have a value that will help elevate the project. But what you did by making it like Recess and making sure that you've created a space where their ideas and what could make it better is always welcome. So you did a great job in that.
Well, and you think about recess when you're in second and third grade, okay? Whenever you are playing pretend with your friends, it's never, no, it's not like this, okay? A lot of it is very yes and whenever you're playing pretend with your friends when you're in childhood, right? And when I wrote these characters, okay? But I very much emphasize with all of these actors, I said, these characters are just as much yours as they are mine, okay? Yes, okay, I put the words on the script and everything, but you guys are embodying these characters, so therefore they are yours as much as they are mine. And because, again, these actors, if you see them in this film, they are incredibly talented. They are chosen for a reason. We had a ton of people audition for these roles, and we had a lot of people that wanted these roles. But these individuals, they were chosen for a reason, not just because of how they said the words, but also of just simply who they are as individuals. All of these individuals that you see here are just absolutely incredible people inside and out. And I think that's really important to have on a set, okay? Yes, you can have the most talented actor and the actress in the world and everything, but if you guys aren't able to translate what your guys' messages are to each other, if there's a mistranslation, there's gonna be flaws there. And that was a big thing that I wanted to emphasize, just simply as a first-time director, is really being able to have harsh conversations with anybody here. and because they're going to come up, right? And I think that simply just shows on screen a huge compliment that we've gotten on the film screening is that it all feels natural, and it's because it really was. All of these actors, they say it's very natural. We didn't have to reach very far. And yes, they didn't have to, because we did the far reaching in the beginning.
Unfortunately, guys, we are running out of time. It is with heavy heart that I wish I could keep them here and talk more. But you know what? We're going to go out with a bang on this. Yes?
You've got 30.
Yes, that's why we are. Anyways, go on. So I want to take this few minutes as an opportunity for each of you to really say what you want to say, because if you have never been given a opportunity to really speak out on things that you wish you had, I want to use that now.
So I just want to kind of piggyback on what Will was saying
Yes.
about the intimacy of the cast, and how initially I was going to piggyback off of Jason with the open-mindedness and the open heart. We just showed up ready to work, whatever, it is what it is, and it happened and it flowed, and that was sort of where I started. But then listening to Will, I was like, I just want to give kudos to Will, quite frankly, all the way around, because he wrote the script before he met any of us, but yet it's like he wrote the characters specifically for us. Mm-hmm. So that was some kind of kismet karma thing. But then the fact of the matter is that Will has made, at least me, I speak for me, I think I probably speak for everyone, every step of the way has kept us involved, has kept us informed, has made us feel so comfortable and so much like family and so much a part of the process. And just the entire time, I'm considering myself the Mother Earth kind of mama hen here, but honestly, this stage mom has literally just made us all as much a part of this as anyone. It's Del and Emerson and Will and us, and it's like we all were just one big team the whole entire time. And I think that really informed the way that we came to set and work together too, because I never felt like I didn't know what was going on. I never felt like there was any facet of it that I wasn't involved in, even though I wasn't pointing the camera or whatever. Like some kind of way, I felt like it all just synergized together. And so I really want to thank Will for including me. And unbeknownst to Will, I had been in this very studio not long before the audition talking to a casting director who told me that I would never be cast in a film because of my age and how I chose to wear my hair and why did I make these choices, and my headshot was whatever. And so there was a moment in time in this very building where I was broken down and discouraged, and then to come in and audition and have Will turn right around knowing none of this and being like, oh my gosh, you're so perfect, you have to be in this film. I'm like, okay, so that happened, and I just got chills even retelling the story. And so I pulled him aside one day and I said, thank you for making that person be a big fat liar, because here we are. And so
I mean, I guess I just want to just thank everyone, for having me be a part of it. It was truly an honor and a privilege. I always learn so much when I'm on set, no matter where I'm placed. I've been everything from a PA who gathers the snacks all the way to a sound engineer that's checking the levels of a microphone, to being the person in front of camera because Will saw that in me. And it's just, yeah, it's a privilege, and it's crazy that a dream can come true, no matter how small or large it seems in the moment, or to other people. I mean, I started my creative journey at the end of 2019, and to the fact that I'm here today is crazy. So anything's possible. Follow your dreams. Love people. We need more love. And yeah, just thank you guys. Just so much gratitude.
Thank you.
Yes. So shout outs to everybody. Yes. And it's like just naming names once and for all these people involved. But like, yes, Will. Yes to Del and Emerson of the Del Shore Foundation. Yes to Sierra Hobbs and Chris of Calliope Films. Yes to anyone who showed up for the Stamped Film Festival to come and support us at the premiere. You need a moment?
Sorry, yeah. I
Okay.
just want to emphasize, like, when you kind of said, like, I was talking to Chris, and this premiere was, like, the largest numbers that we've had, that, like, Stant has really ever had, you know, beyond, like, the headliners, you know, beyond, like, this. So every single year, you know, Stant brings in, like, a celebrity and everything where they can do a talkback and everything. But when it comes to just a film and a film premiere, that we had the largest numbers that we've had to date, you know, in regards to audience attendance. So I'm sorry when you said, like, thank the audience and everything. Like, seriously, thank you, the audience, because it's like, oh my god. But anyway, continue.
That's because you guys are making a societal change.
Right.
Good job. But continue on.
Right here. No. Of course. Yeah, but I think it's film and theater would be a dead media if there was no one around to watch them. So we'd have to thank everybody who sits through and listens to this podcast that ever sees this film. To the donors who make this possible, definitely, because money turns a piece of paper with words on it into a film. So definitely on that regard. So thank you. And I think this is a call to action for myself as much as it is for anyone else, but it's like, keep going. So keep hosting, keep photographing, keep writing, keep directing, keep singing, keep doing all of those things, keep living, because the world is going to try to kill us. but we have to keep going. So I think I really just want to end with that call to action to myself and to everyone else to keep going, keep doing it to the best of your ability. It's like, we don't know how this story ends, but we do know what today is. We do know where we are right now. And so just making the most of our time and continuing to just, like, write this beautiful story of life, like, one page at a time. Yeah.
That's a beautiful thought, by the way. It's a real page turner, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No pun intended. What? Go ahead.
So I echo all the sentiments, all the gratitude that was expressed by everyone else who has spoken. I have so much gratitude for each and every person who has consumed this, who has funded this, who has helped make this possible. I think that the note I want to leave off on is keep doing what you're doing, keep making what you're making, keep using your voice, because God, we really need it. It is an increasingly terrifying time to be a minority in this country. With that being said, please vote. Vote. I'm going to spike the camera on this one. Vote. Register to vote, not just for national elections, for your local elections, because that's where the issues are. That is where you are planted. You need to be reprimanding what is going on. So use your voice. We need these stories to be told. These stories could not exist without you using your voice. Trust your gut. Trust that artistic desire that you have. If you have any inkling, express it, share it. We need it. Protect trans kids, protect queer youth, free Palestine, free Sudan, free Congo. Please speak out on the issues of injustice that are deeply embedded into our everyday life.
There are so many questions left unanswered, but I think that's for a good reason. Just like what Jason said with the story. The story is not done here. We will all cross paths here, and we're still writing our own page. This just so happened to be a crossover episode, just like for BoJack Horseman. What is this? A crossover episode? Wow! But what I'm trying to say is, even though this podcast is the only, you might think it's the last time we see all of us together, but that's okay. Like I said, this is just the first page. There will be a new page where you will see everyone here again at this round table. So, did you want to say something? Yes, he did say he wanted to say something.
I'm sorry, okay? I've said this multiple times. Maybe this won't be the last time that we're on this podcast. If you've got a check, I've got a script, and I've got an entire talented cast right here.
Check. Yes, and.
So, that being said, you can always find their socials. It'll be in the description. And please do what they said. We cannot afford to leave the ideas and the talents that we have been given. We will be doing a disservice not only to ourselves, but to the people that are looking up to us. Just like orchids. If we do not do well to take great care of them, they will die off. And when they die off, and the beauty that they have that could have been shown, it would have been gone. Okay, that's what I'm saying. We need to treat ourselves like plants, because we need to blossom and contribute to this world that is becoming full of divide and everything. That's all I'm saying. That's our job as a creative. Okay. Anyways, I'm going on the spiel.
Amen.
So what?
Amen.
Yes, amen. That being said, if you are looking for the next episode, stay tuned for that, and maybe, just maybe, I'll probably get every one of them on a one-on-one interview. So maybe stay tuned for that. Okay, that is where what
I said, pick me.
Okay. That being said, thank you so much to Chris. Chris, thank you so much for hosting the studio for this podcast to be possible. Thank you so much. And also to the Foundation Emerson, everyone, Del Shores, you guys are doing a fantastic job. Please keep following your mission to make every message be seen and heard as much as possible. Just like what they said, visibility is the most important thing here. Now, for you guys, please walk away with knowing that you are perfect in your own way. Never ever let anyone make you feel anything otherwise. You're a fucking diamond. You need pressure to become a shine thing. That being said, thank you so much for watching this episode, and you stay tuned for the next one. And that is pretty much it. Kino Manuel signing out. Say goodbye. Bye. And cut. And that's a wrap for today's episode on Hit Record. Thank you so much for sticking with us, and I do hope that today's episode was insightful and also it gave you some kind of fresh perspective in your creative journey. If you're listening on Spotify or any other podcast platform, a quick review is definitely going to help. It helps other people find us. And for those that are watching on YouTube, make sure you drop a comment down below or a question, because I would love to see what your thoughts are. If you have any takeaways, advice, insights, anything of the sort, I'd love to see what you guys have. And most importantly, I hope you guys can take away a lot from these conversations, especially if you have hearing loss or disabilities, because I want you to know that you are not limited by your condition and that you are more than just that. Thank you so much for watching. Stay inspired, and I'll see you all in the next episode.